Hi everyone and welcome to another Lanzarote information video, and this week I'm going to be talking about 11 things couples over 40 could enjoy on the island. Now I need to say it doesn't matter if you're 29 or you're 79. I pitched it in that way just to suggest that these are the kind of things that might be more interesting to more mature couples, and that applies to me. So these are things that I would enjoy doing, and I've done them all on a visit to Lanzarote. So perhaps the kids have left home, you're holidaying on your favourite island for the first time, and you're thinking, well, we can do some stuff that the kids may not have enjoyed as much, and what are we going to do? Now, the first thing I'm going to suggest is that you hire a car. It's not essential for all of the things I'm going to recommend to you, but I would suggest it would make most of them much easier, and for some of them it's essential. The car hire here is not expensive. I can arrange, for example, a Fiat Panda 5-door with air conditioning for you for under 120 euros a week, and that price includes everything: insurance, 2 drivers, full coverage with no optional extras, and none of those, sort of hidden extras for fuel and stuff like that. But you don't have to book your car hire through me. If you book it with any of the local companies like Autos Plus Car, Cabrera Medina, Auto Reisen, they all offer those kind of terms. But having a car will make a big difference to any kind of trip on the island, because you'll get to see the parts outside the tourist resorts under your own steam, and at the sort of rate that you want to be doing it. And you don't have to stick with the cheapest car like a Fiat Panda. There are Mercedes convertibles, Volkswagen convertibles, automatics, 7-seaters, 9-seaters, pretty much anything you can think of you can arrange to hire here. So let's assume you've got a car and talk about the other 10 things I would suggest you do next time you're on the island. And the first one is to have a meal in a Sociedad. Now, let me explain what a Sociedad is. It's a society made up of members. Members are called socios, to provide local villages and towns with a place where they can go and eat and drink. So it's a bit like a working men's club, if you're thinking in British terms. The socios decide who runs it. They generally have elections every few years, and they pick a couple that are going to run it. Typically here, and I know this sounds sexist, but typically the fella in the couple runs the bar and the lady does the cooking, but it can be the other way around. What they do provide is fantastic value for money, food and drink, particularly if you are a socio, because you'll get a discount on it. But you don't need to be a socio to go and visit a Sociedad. Anyone can come in and use the facilities and enjoy the food. You won't find them in the tourist resorts like Playa Blanca, Costa de Gise and Puerto del Carmen, but you'll find them in most towns and villages. For example, off the top of my head, here we've got, there's one in Arrecife called La Tagala, there's one in Guatiza, which is very good, they're excellent for their steak. There's one in Los Valles, there's Macha, there's Mazdache, Tinajo, and so on and so forth. They generally don't have a sign above that says Sociedad, but if you search on Google Maps for Sociedades, you'll find them listed around the island. Also, if you go to Lanzarote information website, you'll find that we've reviewed a lot of them. So just type in Sociedad Lanzarote or just Sociedad, and you'll get all the reviews we've done on the Sociedades around the island. My favourite, but I'm biased because I live here, is the one in Arrecife, where David and his wife do a fantastic range of food. He has a really good selection of wines, and they're always friendly and looking forward to welcoming new people to the village. Now, next up, I'm going to suggest you visit the cactus garden, Jardín de Cactus, which was the last work that Manrique did before he was killed in a road accident. Now, I suggest this to you with a wry smile because I avoided it for years. I remember thinking to myself, well, I really can't see the attraction of going to an old disused quarry that's full of cactuses, because cacti are pretty boring plants, and I just didn't think I was going to enjoy it until one day when Julie's grandma visited us, and she said, I'd really like to go and visit the cactus garden. So I drove her down there, we both drove her down there. I had a heavy heart thinking I'm not going to enjoy this, and I had a fabulous time. The cactus garden is absolutely amazing. As I touched on, Manrique built it out of a disused quarry, and it's got sort of layers and levels in it which you can wander all around, and it's got over 7,000 cacti in it. From all over the world, and there are little descriptive plaques that explain where they've come from and a little bit about each of them. And I was entranced. I spent ages there just wandering around taking photos. If you can time it with the flowering season, which is in spring, you will be totally blown away, I promise you. The most ugly cacti in the world seem to produce the most beautiful flowers. There is a cafeteria there, there's a little shop there, you can go up onto the windmill and stand and get a view across the cactus fields, and do pay a visit to the restrooms there because they are really interesting and a little bit quirky. I won't say any more. Now, the fourth thing you could do is go and visit the village of Tenesar. That's Tenesar, and it's just on the coast at the side of Tinajo. Now, when we first came here, Tenesar was known as the Lost Village. And basically what happened is that over the years, the villagers that lived in Tenesar, because it's quite exposed, it's quite on the coast, in those days it was a dirt track to get down to it, they simply moved, and they moved up to the main town of Tinajo, and the village basically became abandoned. 20 years ago you could wander around it and not see a soul, and you could see the buildings falling apart and deteriorating. But in the last 20 years that road has been tarmacked. A lot of the families that owned the houses there went back and they restored the houses to use them as kind of weekend homes. And it's a really interesting place to go and visit. So there's a side road off the main road in Tinajo. It's now signposted, it's now tarmacked, and you can drive, you can wend your way down the coast to Tenesar and just have a wander around. Do it on a weekend and you'll see a lot of people around. You may see some paragliders and hang gliders there too. It's on that coast where the ocean is pretty rough, so you can get some really interesting slow motion shots of the waves crashing into the shore. Now, for my next suggestion, and this one goes back to food, which is something dear to my heart. And I would suggest you go and enjoy one of the excellent tasting menus on the island. And tasting menus here in Spanish are called menu degustación. So if you see that, that will be a tasting menu. Generally, it'll be from 6 to as many as 13 courses. And it's an opportunity for a chef to show off their expertise, and you'll have a chance to try some dishes you perhaps never thought of before. Most of the high quality, good restaurants on the island do tasting menus. Some of the ones I would recommend are, in fact, my favourite on the island is Kamesi, which is Kamezi in Playa Blanca. We went twice in very short succession. That's how good the tasting menu is there. From memory, it's 13 courses, and you have the option to have it paired with wine. I would recommend the wine pairing because Victor, who is the sommelier there, has found some amazing wines from the most unlikely places. As well as Kamesi, I would recommend Cesar Lanzarote and Matcha. They do a beautiful tasting menu. Palacio Eco in Teguise also do one, as do a lot of other restaurants around the island. So just keep your eye out for the menu degustación. Next up, I would suggest you spend a day in the island's capital, Arrecife, especially if you have never done that before, because it's a really interesting place and it's home to about 40% of the island's population. It has the most amazing beach, Playa del Reducto, and right next to the beach is the Arrecife Grand Hotel, which is the island's only high-rise building. And you can go up to the 17th floor where there is a cafe and a bar and enjoy a drink or a coffee, tea or cake, overlooking the best view on the island because it looks across to the airport. You have windows on all sides. You can see the mountains, you can see the ocean, and you can see the north of the island too. Now, the Arrecife Gran has a car park underneath it, and I would recommend, if you're visiting Arrecife, that you park in that car park, because wherever you are in the city, you can always see the Arrecife Gran Hotel, so you'll be able to find your way back to your car very easily. From there, I would walk along the seafront until you reach the Puente de las Bolas, and it's a bridge with two big cannonballs on top. You can't miss it. Just before you do the next thing, go a little way along from there and you'll find a memorial statue of Cesar Manrique, which is, I think, very moving. So come back to the Puente de las Bolas and then walk up the main street, which is Calle León y Castillo. We all call that Calle Real, the Royal Street. You'll find a lot of interesting shops there. There are alleyways off it with tapas bars, and you can spend plenty of time there just exploring and seeing what's on offer. Eventually, as you're walking with your back to the sea, take a right and then you'll reach Charco San Ginés, which is a lagoon where the small fishing boats are kept. And you can walk all the way around that lagoon and you'll find dozens of really top-class bars and restaurants there. So that's a day out in Arrecife, and I haven't even mentioned the marina, but there is a very interesting marina there with more shops, bars and restaurants. And next I'm going to suggest you do some kind of wine tour, and winemaking here is a very important industry for the island. It not only supplies us with wine, but a lot of the wine that's made here is exported. Traditionally, a lot of it goes to the other islands, and for example, if you go to Tenerife and ask them for a really good quality white wine, they will nearly always recommend a Lanzarote wine. Winemaking here is kind of weird because the vines are planted very, very deep so that the roots can reach down through the volcanic ash to the soil, and they're in socos or hoyos, which are these kind of holes in the ground with walls to protect the vines from the wind. It's extremely hard to make wine here, and it's extremely hard for the vines to produce decent quantities of grapes. And that apparently is the secret to great quality wine, because our Malvasia secos and our sweet dessert wines are absolutely world class. So do go on a wine tour where someone will explain to you how wine is made. You may get a chance to meet one of the winemakers, and for sure you'll have a chance to try some of Lanzarote's amazing wines. Now 3 to go, and the first of those 3 is a suggestion that you try out the water taxi. There is a water taxi or water bus that runs between Puertos Calero and Del Carmen. So what I would suggest you do, if you're based in Puerto del Carmen, or at least you're starting from there, you can leave your car in the car park at the Old Town Harbour in Puerto del Carmen, and then choose the promenade path that takes you all the way to Puerto Calero. And it's an interesting walk, quite challenging in a couple of places where you go down and up another barranco. So it's not for anyone who has mobility issues, but if you're just reasonably fit and can walk at a reasonable pace, it's a fascinating walk to do, and I really enjoy it. When you come into Puerto Calero, find yourself somewhere to have a nice lunch, maybe have a wander around the shops there, but then you can get the water taxi back to Puerto del Carmen, and it actually docks in the Old Town Harbour there. So that will give you a chance to look at the coastline as you go between the 2 ports, and you'll see a different aspect of Lanzarote from the ocean than you do on land. Now the penultimate one I'm going to suggest is that you, and this might sound a bit odd, but it's worth a visit the casino in Puerto del Carmen. Now you don't need to go there necessarily and gamble loads of money, but it's just quite an interesting place to go and visit because it is the only casino on the island. And as you walk down the steps, it's nothing like casinos in Las Vegas, but it has got everything in it. It has roulette, it's got blackjack, it's got slot machines with high payouts, and it's just quite an interesting place to go and visit and enjoy, and perhaps to have a little flutter. I should add the sensible caveat that if you are going to go and you are going to play there, give yourself a limit, and when you've reached your limit, come on out, or at least stop playing the tables there. But it's quite an interesting and, as I say, unusual place to visit, because there are very, very few casinos in Spain as a whole, and this is the only one in Lanzarote. And the last one, and this is aimed at those of you who've always wanted to get your kit off. The island is pretty naturist friendly. We have a whole village which is naturist. It's called Charco de Palo, and it's in the north of the island, just down the coast from Guatiza and Mala. And in Charco de Palo, most of the people who live there are naturists. You'll see people wandering around with no clothes on. You can go and visit the sea pool they have there and the sand dunes they have there, and you can just wander around naked if that's your thing. We also have a naturist beach in Papagayo. There are 5 beaches in Papagayo. The centre one is a sort of accepted naturist beach. Also the beach that runs from Playa Honda all the way down the promenade, where the promenade runs down the runway. That stretch of beach there is also naturist friendly. So if you do fancy getting a kit off, that's another place that you can do it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, 11 things that the over 40s can do in Lanzarote. Were there any that you haven't done that you quite fancy doing in the future? Leave me a comment and let me know. Is there anything else you would add to this? What would you suggest to a 50-year-old friend of yours visiting Lanzarote for the first time? Let's see if we can crowdsource a few other good suggestions in the comments. If you've liked the video, please give us a like. We would really appreciate that. We'll be back next Tuesday with another video like this. Every Thursday we do a walkabout video of the island, and every Saturday we do the news from Lanzarote for everybody. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so, and you'll be notified as we post each of those. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back soon with another video from Lanzarote Information. Bye for now.